Okay, in this video, I'm just going to talk about the different types of volcanoes. I know you read about this when you read chapter 12, but I just wanted to review and show you some pictures of what these volcanoes typically look like. I'm going to go through these kind of fast, so feel free to pause the video at any point that you need in order to get the information written down. I'll let you know if there's things you don't need to write in your notebook. All right, so one thing to know is that variations in the water content of the rock, the temperature, and viscosity lead to different types of volcanoes. So how the lava flows really indicates what type of volcano we're going to get. Viscosity is just the resistance to flow. So we can think of it as how fast something moves. If you think of, if I took a glass of water and I poured it on the cement, and then if I took that same water and I mixed it up with sand and mud and then I tried to pour it, they're going to pour differently, and that's viscosity. So low viscosity is fast flowing magma or lava. High viscosity is slow moving magma or lava, and you're going to see some examples of that coming up on these slides. Now, magma and lava are the same thing, it just depends on where they're found. When it is below the ground, so inside the volcano and below the crust, it's called magma. But once it comes up to the surface and it's on land, it's called lava. I always remember it. I think of how land and lava start with the same two letters, and that helps me remember which one is which. Okay, so the first type we're going to talk about are shield volcanoes. Shield volcanoes, with these, the lava is able to flow quickly and can travel far from the vent, creating a shield. So these have kind of a dome shape. I think they also look like hills. Okay, and they were named because they look a lot like a shield that would be taken to war in ancient times. Okay, so here's some examples of some shield volcanoes you can see in the distance here. There's an island that's a shield volcano, and another one here, and you can see this has a lot of greenery, probably a volcano that hasn't erupted in quite a while. All right, Olympus Mons is a large volcano that is on Mars, and it was once an active shield volcano. It's dormant now, but they think that in Mars's history it was active, and it is considered the largest volcano in the solar system. That is important to know for your test. Okay. So, Olympus Mons, largest volcano in the solar system. To give you an idea of how big it is 3 times larger than Mount Everest, which is the tallest mountain here on Earth. Mauna Kea is the largest point on Hawaii, and you can see it's significantly taller than that. It is as wide as the state of Arizona, so a very big volcano and a shield volcano. All right, the next type is cinder cone. Cinder cone volcanoes, you don't have to write a picture of this, but it's just to help understand some of the basic parts of a volcano. In a cinder cone volcano, a lot of times they will have rock fragments that will be mixed within the lava, or the magma, I'm sorry, until it reaches the surface. And we call that hole in the top a vent. That's where the gases come out, and if a volcano erupts, it typically flows from the vent. Erupting gases carry lava into the atmosphere to form tephra. And you read about tephra in the book. The tephra, all tephra is it is magma that when it comes out in eruption, and usually cinder cone volcanoes have violent eruptions where it's very explosive. And so those rock fragments and that magma gets up into the atmosphere where it's cooler, and it cools and solidifies, becomes solid during the flight through the air, and it lands on the ground, and it forms the steep sides of this type of volcano. So one thing you're going to notice about cinder cone volcanoes is they look like they're made out of dirt or gravel, and that's just the tephra that's fallen onto the sides of the volcano. So here is an eruption of a cinder cone volcano. The longer the eruption, the larger the ash cinder volcano gets to be. So here's some examples. You can see, again, what we were just talking about. It looks very textured. I always think of cinder cone volcanoes as having that very typical volcano shape of what we think of when we think of a volcano. Okay, another one. And they can be very large. Okay, so we have two dormant volcanoes. Dormant just means that they haven't erupted in a long period of time, so they have greenery all over them. We have to figure out which one is a shield and which one is a cinder cone volcano. You can pause the video for a moment and think. So in this picture, A has our magma chamber, has a dome shape. This one has a nice big vent on the top, similar to our picture from before. And so A is our shield volcano and B is our cinder cone volcano. The last type of volcano we're going to talk about is a composite or stratovolcano. Your book calls them composite volcano, stratovolcano, because they have striated layers. If you have not heard the word striated, it just means layers. We can get rocks that have striation. And so these are a layered volcano, and the layers indicate the type of volcanic activity that was happening at that time. That'll make more sense in just a moment. So this is a composite volcano that's pretty famous for this monster right here. If you don't know what that monster is, it is Godzilla. Godzilla is a monster that originated in Japan. And this volcano is Mount Fuji, which is a pretty famous volcano on the island of Japan. Here's a picture of it from a little bit further back. So magma in a composite volcano has high and low silica content that alternate. And so what it really means, and the part that you need to write down, is this bottom box down here. And that just means that this volcano has properties of shield and cinder cone volcanoes in its layers. So it might erupt, and it might have an eruption where the lava flows quickly and it makes a nice dome shape, similar to a shield volcano. Then the next time it erupts, it might be more explosive, like a cinder cone volcano. And so if you were to dig into the sides of that volcano, you'd find layers of lava from a shield volcano type eruption, and then maybe a cinder cone. And it doesn't always have to alternate back and forth. There could be several eruptions where it is one type or the other, but it has layers. It can erupt either way because it has two different silica contents to its magma. A vocabulary word you need to know for the test is caldera. This is a large crater that's caused by the violent explosion of a volcano that collapses into a depression. And that's what we have right here. I'm going to show you how this happens. So we have our volcano with its magma chamber where all that melted rock is. It erupts, and in that eruption, it's pretty explosive, and all the magma leaves the magma chamber. Because it's empty, over time, the sides start to cave in, and they collapse into a depression that becomes this magma chamber. It looks like a big crater. A lot of times, they will fill with water. They look very pretty. So here's several different pictures of calderas. They can also be dry, depending on the climate they're found in. Okay, and then where do volcanoes form? You do not need to write anything for this slide or this one. It's just a review. They can occur at convergent and divergent plate boundaries. Convergent means we have two plates coming together. One subducts underneath the other one. Remember that our oceanic crust is more dense than continental, so it goes underneath the continental crust. We can get these chains of volcanoes near that trench where the subduction occurs, because that's where magma can come up. And the island of Japan is this way, where they're right near a trench, and you have a lot of volcanic activity that happens due to that location. Divergent plate boundaries are where the plates are moving away from each other, like the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, and we can get volcanoes that form here, releasing lava and magma to make more crust. And then the last thing I have is hot spots. We did that hotspot lab, but just as a reminder, so you have it in your notes, these are locations where magma has broken through the crust and creates volcanoes, forming island chains like the Hawaiian Islands. And then the next slide and the final slide of this presentation is just seeing this hot spot and the islands forming. And we talked about how the plate is moving. This is not at a plate boundary. And as the plate continues to move, the islands move up along the Pacific plate. And those are the notes.